Oh, hold on.
Oh,
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me?
yes. Yes.
Amazing. Here we are.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm so sorry I kept pushing this off.
Oh,
Like,
dude, look. That all of that actually synced up perfectly with
okay.
everything that I'm doing out here. I've been running around so much, so this is like perfect.
Okay, good, good, good. Well, tell me about what you're doing. I feel like I don't really know what your job is right now. I know
Oh,
you're designing, but like, who are you working for?
so I work for it's a very crazy story, but I work for do you know Michael Bennett?
Michael Bennett. The name's familiar.
He's a retired football player.
Oh, okay. No, I'm honestly not as familiar with the football world.
Me
So,
neither.
okay. Good.
But yeah, he basically wants to start a design studio, and I've just been working with him to kind of like build that up, you know?
Gosh, wait,
And
okay. Now I need to look this person up.
yeah.
Michael.
Yeah, and we basically started from nothing with the whole thing, which has been it was very difficult because there's a lot of when working with other people, there's a lot of like, people want to see proof, and we're like, yeah, that's what we're trying to do, like but where we're at right now is amazing because we're almost done with our first set of furniture. The studio intends on being like just general design, but our first set is like furniture, and we're going to be showing that at um, somewhere around this time next year, or like springtime next year.
Oh my gosh. Wait, that is so cool. So, I mean, how did he find you or how did you find him?
Oh, so yeah, I don't even every time I talk about this, I kind of realize how surreal the I don't know, just the odds of this stuff happening was. But I was supposed to get an internship with this it's a Swedish design firm. They're called Form Us with Love.
Okay. I'm not
Yeah,
familiar. Yeah.
yeah, they make really crazy stuff. And we had a lot of interviews, and then like basically stuff kind of didn't work out because of the way internships work in our differing like countries,
Hmm.
but we ended up like keeping in contact, and they were just kind of like introducing me to a lot of people, trying to kind of like piece me into someone else's framework, that I could work with. And one of those people was Michael Bennett, because he was working with them on another project. And yeah, like we got on a call and spoke, and it was like we just vibed.
Oh, that's so good. Oh
Yeah,
my
we're
gosh.
like already kind of thinking about the same things like before we met each other. So like we're like, yeah, we're like, and yeah, and yeah, and yeah, you know? So it was like almost stars align kind of moment. Because like yeah, every day we're just kind of like vibing on some ideas, and we're like, yeah, it's just really in sync, and we're just trying to create some interesting kind of like thought-provoking design pieces, not just furniture, but like anything that falls under the umbrella of design. Like we've also been working on some like uh pavilions, just two.
Wow.
But yeah, and then yeah, it's really cool because it whenever we're collaborating with other people, like I can look for people that I fuck with,
Yeah.
and Michael does the same, and yeah, very cool. I'm like honored to like be able to be in the front seat, this early, and it's fucking crazy. But
Oh, I'm so happy for you. That gives me the warm fuzzies. Oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's real. I had like heavy imposter syndrome, for like the first half a year, honestly, you know? I
Yeah.
was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, how is this even possible? You know?
Yeah, hey, I like really feel that right now. So, yes.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean that's kind of what I've been running around doing since school ended. I'm in Houston right now, and I like stopped by the architecture building because my friend Monica is doing architecture now. And yeah, I saw like Wells, and I saw all the students. It was like the cutest thing ever. I was like, wow, look at all these kids suffering, and they like it a little bit, you know,
Oh my
like.
God. I know. It's like it's so weird not being there anymore.
I mean, you're kind of you're in the same like headspace. Like you're back in school, yeah?
It's totally different headspace though. It's like it's school, but it is so unlike the last 4 years.
Yeah, yeah. What makes the difference for you?
Well, so my program is environmental management, but specifically my concentration is economics and policy. And
Oh.
so having not done econ or really anything in that realm the last 4 years, I'm like playing catch up a little bit. And if not catch up, like starting from the ground up with a lot of it. So
Mm.
yeah, it's just
So
very,
you're gonna need
very
to you're gonna
schematic.
need to run me through your whole situation. Like, so yeah, what is the plan that you're uh-oh. If you
Oh,
need to,
sorry,
you
hold
can
on.
answer it.
Oh,
You can just mute your
it's
mic whenever.
oh no, okay. It's my brother. It's his birthday gift. So his birthday's tomorrow, and his birthday gift is being brought to him right now by his girlfriend. Because like I don't know, I'm not explaining this well. I bought him a gift and I shipped it to her house, and she's giving it to him right now. That's what's happening.
Oh, that's
So,
cute as hell.
but we'll talk in a little bit.
Your brother's birthday is tomorrow?
Yes.
My sister's birthday is tomorrow.
Uh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
do you have a gift? Did you figure out all your stuff?
Oh yeah. We like I came down here to surprise her, along
Oh,
with a couple of other stuff, but and I was like orchestrating this it was like a surprise birthday party for her, and she didn't know that I was gonna be in town. But my neighbor ended up snitching on me. He was like, "Oh, your brother's in town. Like, I didn't get to say hi though." And then she was like,
oh
"What?
my
What do you mean
God.
he's in town?" But I luckily we managed to keep the surprise party a surprise, you know. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. Same birthday.
Yes,
Did you
September
know
26th.
tomorrow? I've been seeing this a lot on Twitter. You're able to see Jupiter more clearly than, any other day for like these specific alignments or whatever. But
Oh,
it's
cool.
the universe is giving September 26th people a birthday gift, you
Have you
know?
ever used that app? I think it's called like Skyview, where you hold
Oh,
your phone up and it like will tell you like different constellations and
oh
like
yeah.
where everything is. Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah, that shit is crazy, especially on a good clear night. Oh my gosh.
Oh man. Whenever like we were driving here to North Carolina, we had stopped at like some different Airbnbs in like Tennessee and Arkansas, like just kind of bopping around. And one night we stayed in like rural Tennessee-ish area and
Oh,
like
I could imagine
the
the
sky
sky.
was totally clear. And so that's when I like pulled the app out. I was like, oh,
It's
look
like,
where we
oh, and
are.
that's that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like out here identifying. I was like, astronomy who? Like just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it was great.
But yeah, yeah. What have you what's provoked this like whole pivot,
Oh my
in
God.
what you're doing? Maybe it wasn't a pivot, maybe you already knew, but yeah,
Yeah,
what's
I mean, I would say like it feels both like a natural transition and like a complete 180. So I'm like, yeah. I'm trying to like I'll give like the abridged version to
Ooh, the
some degree.
spiel. I'm
So
prepared.
okay, okay. I started industrial design because I was really interested in packaging design
Mm,
and both like the visual like aesthetics of packaging and like structural elements of packaging, but also like the waste aspect and
mm.
being really overwhelmed with single use packaging, plastics, like how can we design packaging to be more sustainable, more like biodegradable, compostable, that type of thing. Coming in, I was very naive. Like I didn't really understand. Like, why can't we just make everything compostable? Like, no. Anyways, whatever. I learned from him. That's not, how the world works necessarily. But um, then getting into the ID program, I don't know, I was more disappointed to see how sustainability was treated
Ooh,
in the design industry, because a lot of times it's more like greenwashing and like a marketing
marketing
strategy
situation.
as
Yes.
opposed to like a fundamental, like a guiding principle, throughout
Yeah.
the process. So that was just sort of like a constant disappointment. I felt like I was always like making my projects so that they had like sustainability focus, but that I felt like that was, I don't know, I was trying to like talk about it and have these conversations, and it just didn't seem like
Yeah, I wasn't connecting it.
people were super interested in sustainability. And I was like, how can we not be interested in something when we're like literally creating the waste around us,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've
Like we have
spoken to
this
Juliana about that a
responsibility
lot.
as designers. So
Yeah.
sort of became specifically very interested in plastics, and did a little bit of stuff with precious plastic at U of H. Kind of
Oh,
helped create that recycling workspace.
oh yeah. Been peeping that.
Yeah, that was really fun. I learned a lot from that. But what one of the things I really learned was how poor um, Houston's recycling infrastructure actually is, and how misleading it is.
Can you hear that?
You, pardon?
Can you hear that?
No.
No? Okay, good. Yeah, they're like screaming outside for some reason. But go ahead, proceed.
No, you're good. You're good. I was just like disappointed that Houston doesn't really recycle. Um,
Mm.
it's like a single stream curbside approach where you just like put everything in your bin, you like leave it out next to your normal trash, but a lot of that is ultimately contaminated and ends up going to landfill.
Oh yeah.
Or like Houston, I'm not going to get the statistic right, but somewhere in the teens percentage recovery rate for recycling. So like
Wow.
very little is actually like recycled, but even then, like whatever is recycled like just goes elsewhere, and like that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, I hear a lot of things about recycling infrastructure like not being as ideal as people think it is. You know?
Not at all. Not at all. It's very misleading. So from that sort of like journey of understanding, I realized, okay, I'm interested in problem solving, but I feel like I need to scale up a little bit and expand my education. And so that's when I decided, okay, I'm more interested in policy, because if
Oh
you think
shit.
about design thinking can really be applied to any
Yes.
scale. And like I'm sure, you are also exploring that, like what industrial design is and has been, and what industrial design can and maybe should
Yes.
be. So taking this little, toolkit that I've gotten over the last 4 years of design thinking, which is, participatory, creative, iterative problem solving, and taking that from like a, you know, a product deliverable to, how can you apply this to policy, to systems design, um, which is
Yeah,
not like
yeah.
a unique approach necessarily, but it's just sort of like a lens of looking at
No, yeah.
policy.
It's a warmer lens. There's a
Yeah,
lot of human variables considered, because like
exactly.
usually there's always a question of like how the fuck did this end up being a thing when it's like almost inconveniencing a lot of people, and it's because like
Yeah.
there isn't design thinking involved in most of those cases.
Well, and it's like there's not people involved. It's not participatory. You're not involving the people that the policy or the whatever is for in that design process. So that, and sort of combined with um an interest in environmental justice, having, grown up in Houston and seeing like the health impacts of plastic and pollution, um, sort of all of that together made me interested in continuing my education. So right now, I'm doing my master's in
Whoa,
environmental management, but
big time.
specifically environmental policy, ultimately, like once all is said and done. So from that, I'm involved in research right now because Duke has a plastic pollution working group. And
What?
so I helped to co-author a paper this summer, um, in like the plastic policy space. And I'm currently doing a work study, um, which is ultimately going to result in another paper, which is really cool because I'm like able to write papers. I'm like, oh, how the hell did that happen? I went from like humble like designer to like being able to like contribute my small piece to the pie, you know?
That is that is amazing. I
Yeah,
mean, it's nice hearing that like I don't know, it's a very organic way that you're approaching all of this stuff, you know? Like and that's as beautiful as it gets when it comes to like, you know, pursuing a passion, you know? Like
yeah,
it's rare that someone can fall in line to like what they love, you know? And you're like you're getting there.
yeah. Well, it's cool because even with the group that I'm doing research with right now, a lot of the folks in that working group are coming from like political science, policy, even like medicine, considering like health impacts and like um, environmental management, like, but more like of the science side, and me coming in from the very like arts side, the like the, you know, oh, I know how these things are made. I understand like early on production. Like y'all are very focused in what happens at the end, but I know what happens at the beginning with these materials and these, you know, this
Yeah.
plastic pollution. And so it's kind of the perspective that I have is, you know, like earlier in the life cycle. And that's kind of cool because
Oh, wow.
not it, the folks that I'm with are just more concerned with like what happens after something is made. So it's cool. I feel like I
Yeah,
was
you're
feeling like real imposter syndrome and still do for sure because you know, I don't know things. I'm just here. I'm just here to learn, but
yeah.
I'm
And
trying
I could see that being a thing because you're a little different from everyone else.
yeah, but
Like
it's
a
like
unique little puzzle piece. Yeah, you got
yeah.
your little spot,
I'm trying to
man.
like to frame like what I do have as an asset, you know, and see if I can, you know, how I can contribute. But at the same time, what's cool about this program is it's very quantitative skills heavy, and so we are learning um, how to approach things with, you know, as an economist, as like being able to do applied data analysis. Like I'm learning R right now for
Oh,
my statistics
wow.
class, and that is like kicking my butt. But I'm like, I'm trying my best. I'm like, I'm taking an environmental law class, which is really cool in the law school with law students.
Oh, what?
I'm like, how did I get here?
It's
I'm
like,
like,
I'm just a carpenter.
yeah, literally, I'm like, I can make a table. That's all I've got.
That is it, has it been like a lot of like how was that switch up? Wait, hold on, I gotta turn the AC on in this shit. It's like hot as hell in this house.
Okay, good.
My family are they're just a bunch of lizards. They just like their heat rock, you know, but I'm not used to that shit anymore. I'll be right back. Give me one sec.
Okay, yeah.
All right, I'm back.
Okay, hello.
Apologize for that. But yeah, what was I don't know if you answered that, but yeah, what was the switch up like?
It's been well, just like a different type of learning, you know,
Hmm.
because what we've learned is very, you know, I mean, okay, the stuff that I'm doing right now is very collaborative, and that's, you know, similar. Like, I think we've learned very well over our design education, like how to work well with others and how to do group work and that kind of thing. So, like, that is definitely involved in this degree, but the content that we're learning is totally different. Being like econ and law, so I'm learning how to study, and
Ooh.
it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, like I did a minor in energy and sustainability at U of H, and so I was able to take a lot of classes that did sort of like give me somewhat of a foundation for some of the stuff that I'm doing now. But you know, it's just a lot still. And so like so many of the people in my cohort have worked for a number of years before coming back to school. So, I mean, there's folks that like have worked for the EPA for, a number of years, or, have done like environmental policy work already, or
Oh
like they've
wow.
been consultants, for different nonprofits, and like have come from the environmental space and are
Mm.
already like environmental professionals. And so that's a little intimidating because I'm not. But anyways, it's been fine. School has been great because every day I wake up and I'm like so happy to be here
Oh,
learning these things. So
oh,
it's
what?
not.
That's so beautiful.
I'm like,
You're like, time to learn.
yeah, seriously, I'm like, okay, I worked really hard to be here. Like, I want to be here. I chose this place, this program, like all of this intentionally because this is like where I want my life to go. So
Mm,
I can only be grateful and I can only be happy. So,
that is so beautiful. I mean, and I don't know. It's all of the tools that you're kind of gathering, these new tools. I've only been able to think about that stuff from like very far, like hindsight perspective. But like, yeah, everything you're learning is going to be so valuable to you, and it's so easy to kind of take that stuff for granted because it's almost like becomes muscle memory, you know?
mhm.
But I don't know, for better and for worse, like the learning process, the growing pains that happens within that, you know, like whenever you graduate, you're gonna be the shit, like for real. You specifically,
Thanks.
you're
I'm
like
trying
a
my best.
you're like a fucking Swiss Army knife right now. 'Cause, like you're learning kind of like the more technical, sciencey, or what
Yeah.
you said, qualitative, no, quantitative stuff.
Quantitative. Yeah. And
Yeah,
that's the thing is,
and
ID and like design research is a lot more qualitative.
oh
So,
yeah,
this is like it's a different type of research.
yeah.
Um,
You're
but it's gaps that I really want to fill, gaps in my knowledge that I'm like, okay, I'm so ready to absorb. So
yeah, you're complimenting yourself. You're complimentary to yourself,
yeah, right.
which is like that's amazing. You know, you're developing the other half. Yeah.
Thank you. Imhotep, you're just like pumping me up right now. You're
Oh
just
yeah, yeah. This is a fan club right now for you. The Anne-Elisabeth fan club.
oh my God. Well, it's crazy. So yesterday, the EPA, yesterday or maybe it was Friday, the EPA announced that they are creating an Office of Environmental Justice. And
Mm.
it's so cool because I'm like, whoa, the job that I have always wanted now like suddenly exists, you know? And I'm like, okay, there we go. That's it. That's where I want to be.
Yeah, you're the blade that's being sharpened for that, like, specific task. You're gonna get sheathed in your job soon.
Oh man, it's so good. Everything is so good. I mean, I love Durham. I didn't know what to expect, to be honest, but North Carolina is amazing. And I'm
Oh
like,
yeah, I'm
I don't know
curious.
if I'll ever come back to Texas, if
Are
I'm
you're
being
you're in a
completely
different
honest.
time zone, no?
You and I are the same. Yeah,
Oh,
we're
okay,
both
okay.
Eastern. Yeah.
Oh,
But I
I'm
mean,
I'm in Houston right now.
oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I keep thinking that you're in New York, but yeah.
Okay, there we go. That makes
We're
sense. I
both
was I
there.
was for some reason it escaped my mind that you were in like a different state for a second. I was like, oh, we're the same time zone, 8 o'clock, you know? But yeah, yeah. So how are you enjoying the new environment?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's funny. I
Are
feel
you
like
gonna
every
stay
time
there forever? Move back
I will
whenever you retire?
I will be in North Carolina for the rest of my life. I mean, who knows, honestly.
Wow, you love
That's
it.
that's sort of a joke, but not
Oh,
really.
okay.
I really like it. Um, the God, just everything about it. I don't know, and maybe it's the contrast of having come from Texas, very, different politics, very, conservative. I mean, Houston is not super conservative, but Texas as a whole.
Hmm.
And Durham specifically is so different. Durham is it's so like progressive, it's so artsy, it's just extremely liberal, extremely like diverse, inclusive, like celebratory of like everyone that's in this,
Oh,
space. I mean, Duke has some questionable like historical context. That's not great, but they're
Everywhere in America
doing
does.
they actively, well, specifically like I'm in the School of the Environment here, and
Mm.
it is like the most crunchy granola group of people that you have ever seen in your entire life. And everyone is so like happy and hippie and like everyone looks like they just walked out of REI, and they're like going camping like
Patagonia and Birkenstocked out.
but like wholesome, you know what I mean? Not like egotistical REI, but
Yeah, yeah.
like sweet, crunchy kind
No,
of, you know what
yeah,
I mean?
like the real organic granola people.
Yeah, everyone's just here because they want to like save the earth. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh guys. And like it's funny because back at I feel like I can talk more freely about this now. Back at U of H, I did my undergraduate thesis on how to talk to climate deniers.
Yeah, I kind of
Um, but
go ahead.
there was some pushback on that because there are some people that didn't believe in climate change that were advising me. And so I was just constantly battling, like, I don't know, like the validity of the topic. And I was like, wait, this shouldn't even be a question. Like, we don't
Yeah.
need to argue about if climate change is real, first of all. And that sort of informed, like, ultimately what I ended up doing, how to talk to climate deniers. Um, but I
A
was like,
perfect project in that case. You
do
get
what?
like real-time feedback. Like,
The whole thing just felt like a very, like, meta experiment.
yeah.
But I don't have to, like, there's like a baseline. Everyone that's here is here because like they actually care and they are
Oh
concerned
yeah.
about things. And it's not like, you know, there's no point of contention. Like no one is arguing about like fundamental science, and
Yeah.
that is cool. So that's very different from what I've come from.
No, yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's like you're in your niche, your area, you know? You guys like think similarly, similarly enough
Yeah,
to just like vibe off that, you know?
it's so funny. It's so funny. Everyone that I have become really good friends with, we all are just like, the same values, like the same interests. And it's just such a happy, like, basically being in the program, like so much of your interests are like pre-sorted. It's like you've
Yeah.
you've filtered through like the most similar group of people.
Yeah, yeah. You guys like are down to like the most dense nugget, you
Yeah.
know? It's concentrated.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is lovely. It makes for a really fun group of people to go to school with every day. So,
So
yeah.
I am kind of we're gonna jump back to what the you said South Carolina, Durham?
North Carolina,
North
Durham.
Carolina. Yeah, so we're gonna jump back to that. But I am curious about your thesis. Like,
Oh God.
what was that like? I mean, because I could were they harping on you for like not having like a product or what?
Yeah. It was kind of tricky. Okay, I know that like
Please
this
spill the
recording is
beans.
going on YouTube, but ultimately, and so I'm like, I'm gonna choose my words carefully. Because I still wanna,
No, yeah, don't.
not
If
have
you don't
people
want to,
like
you don't have to.
be upset at me. But yeah, I think that there's just maybe a gap in, like we were saying earlier, like an understanding of like what industrial design is and has been and what it can and should be.
Mm.
So it was just a bit of a conversation to try to validate, a designed experience slash like web slash tool thing versus, a physical product. And like in some ways I kind of maybe wish that I had just done like a product and like that had been like my last little, thing, because I feel like I'm never going to work on things ever again. And maybe that would have just been fun, but I feel like I maybe just like made it difficult for myself. But I learned a lot. So the
Yeah.
research and the conversations that came out of that project really helped, really prepared me for where I am now. So even if it wasn't like a very traditional industrial design thesis, it was very informative for me personally. And ultimately, I think that that's what your thesis should be about. It shouldn't
Yes.
be for others, it should be for you and helping you to
Yes.
develop
Oh,
whatever it is that you need at that point in your life. So I am totally at peace with it, but I was a little insecure for a while about it.
No, yeah, and I really like what you said about the I don't know what oh, so it's gonna kick us out in 10 minutes, but we can just jump back in.
Okay.
And then tap out whenever you're ready to tap out, because I will talk to you forever. Like
Wait, this has been so lovely. I can't believe.
some people are like, they're like, fuck, like get me out of here, and if no one says anything, I'm just gonna go till I'm bored.
No, this is great. This is great. Keep on.
Yeah, yeah, but industrial design being like a newborn baby, and it's like, and just to kind of get it out there, like I think the University of Houston's like industrial design program is like it's amazing, but it's like every framework, like their approach is that they're making extremely well-rounded industrial designers, and I was not able to appreciate that until like I started applying around and people were like, "What the fuck? Like, you're kind of good." And I was like, "I am?" I was like, "What do you mean?"
Hey.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, "Me? Like, you're lying. Like, shut up." But
Yeah.
in that sense, like whenever you're working with a structure in which you're trying to like make a well-rounded industrial designer for like today, like you can only work like that. That is a formula, and that's hard to come up with, and
Yeah.
it can be hard for that to be like a nebulous dynamic thing. Like that would be a project on its own, and for I mean for a field of study that's so new, like it's almost impossible like right now. So like there are going to be the projects that kind of like it like feels outside of like what industrial design is today, but
Yeah.
I love those so much. Like the whenever you think of like product design, and I feel like UX is starting to kind of like itch on the limits of what industrial design
Hmm.
is, because like you're really designing an experience, and then it becomes this gray area between like
Yeah.
design in general. But yeah, I think it's a very interesting thing that can be played with, and I'm really interested in seeing like what happens in the future. I'm way less critical of like design programs, and specifically the university design program now, than I was like whenever I was in it. I was like, what the fuck? Like, how come I'm not being accommodated to like to the T? And I was like, this needs to be like RISD, or this needs to be like
Yeah.
an imagined curriculum that I had, and I was like, all right, like now that I'm zoomed out, I'm like, that would have been almost impossible. But
Yeah.
yeah, so what did your project end up being in how it interacted with people? Like, was it successful, or was it just a learning process?
It was more of a learning process. I wouldn't say that it was
And when I say
successful.
successful, I mean that in like I don't mean
No, I,
as
I I think I
successful.
know what you
Yeah,
mean.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It ended up I was interested in creating basically like an interactive tool that you could sort of use to learn all the different possible climate denier claims and like learn how to um respond to them in an accurate but calm way. And like that was like something that then you could take, like that was like your toolkit to be able to talk to like your uncle that doesn't believe in climate change.
Yeah.
um but like in a very like user friendly sort of like web tool thing. Honestly, I was like really hung up on like data visualization and like how to make this sort of interactive thing that I could not possibly have done if I like unless I had known R at the time. I did not
Mm.
know R. I'm learning R now, but yeah. So I had like I can still like picture what I really wanted it to be. I don't know how to have made it without like a really crazy skill set. So what
Yeah.
it ended up being was just like a website. I called it Climate Contact because it was like contacting and like conversing about climate change. And it ended up being like a sort of like a not choose your own adventure, but like a a website that I wanted it to be more of like a tool that was like hosted on a website, not like a website itself, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, but where you could sort of like click through and explore different climate claims and like, here's this information, here's like what you can do about it, here are next steps, here's how you can have these conversations with others. And sort of like guiding based on sort of where they felt they resided on that spectrum of like if they feel like climate change is an issue or not. And so it sort of just like walked you through yeah, it was like a pathway, and that then you could take as like a skill set for having a conversation later on. I don't know, like it wasn't that great.
Well, hold on a second. So, what I think is so interesting about that, and if you'll follow me through this, I'm gonna abstract the fuck out of it. Well, maybe not
All
the
right, go
fuck
for
out of
it.
it, but I'm gonna abstract it a little bit. Like your project was a pursuit on like I don't know, designing a structure for interaction, which
Yeah.
is like it's kind of interesting. Like the that structure is this kind of like it's a non-existent kind of like framework, but I don't know, you that was the product, and
Hmm.
it's you're designing human interaction in a way, something to graft onto human interaction, and like I think your project is probably before its time, because like what there has to be like a better way for that structure to exist, than like the tools that we have available now, like
Yeah.
what I don't know, like they're I mean, of course, if you daydream for long enough, or kind of ruminate on what the future could look like, some sci-fi ideation,
Yeah.
it's like what's the easiest way to kind of graft on to this like pre-existing structure that is like communication styles and all of this, to kind
Yeah.
of open people up to I don't know, communicating with each other. And that's beautiful. Something that helps people communicate with each other. Like, and
Yeah.
that's a very cool product, you know?
Yeah. Well, because like so much of people's perspectives on political issues like climate change, unfortunately, the fact that it is political, I mean, it is, it shouldn't be, but it is. Um,
Everything is, it's crazy.
yeah, but it's like it's so much of it that is centered around trust and who you're getting that information from. And so if you can have a conversation with someone that you trust, you are most likely going to be receiving that information better than a total stranger, or, whatever. So the idea was that it was like sort of preparing you to be able to have those conversations with the people that you trust and that trusted you. And so that the
Yeah,
conversation ultimately be more productive than, like I think like billing on
garbage.
the street or something, you know what I mean? Like walking up to someone and trying to change their mind and you're
Yeah,
not gonna,
yeah, yeah.
you know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because then people
So
kind of get defensive and
yeah,
yeah, I don't
yes.
know.
Yes, they do.
I'm like I don't know. I've always been really interested in like psychology. So
Yeah,
I don't know,
right.
just to see a product design project that really is kind of going under the hood of like interaction between people. Because like I feel like a lot of product design stuff is very surface level, and like you were saying before with like greenwashing,
Hmm.
most of the psychology that's kind of studied is a little evil in how it only serves like you know uh what would make something sell faster, as opposed to like what
Hmm.
would make
Yeah,
someone actually happier, and not like in a way that it's like, oh, if people are happier it'll sell more, it's like no, 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 like the happiness alone,
right.
like I mean finances definitely jump in later, but that's just the plus and it shouldn't be the motive.
Hey man, 100%. I appreciate you breaking it down because I mean, I will say I had a lot of really awesome support from Aaron McEwen. I don't know if
Oh
you ever
hell
had him
yeah,
as a
that guy's on
freelancer.
the fucking sauce.
He is the coolest person I know.
He did a
And
project similar in kind of like teaching
yeah,
design.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So he was, yeah, he was awesome. And I give him so much gratitude and appreciation for really dealing with my uncertainty and confusion at all times.
Oh yeah, I can imagine he gets a lot of that. Like people would always come. He was sort of a low key Yoda
Yeah,
in the
he's so
school.
wise.
And he's
He's
like
so
quiet as
wise.
fuck. He doesn't throw his like advice onto you, you know?
No.
He like drops it out of an eyedropper.
Yeah, yes, yes. And like when you get it, you're like, oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
you're like, oh fuck, yes, thank you.
That's so accurate.
All right, sweet.
Okay, I think we're back. Okay.
Yeah, you got a lot of support.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a rock star. What about you? I want to hear about your life. And like,
What about it? I mean,
I mean, like, what are you, okay, what is something outside of work that is bringing you joy right now?
oh man, these things, these like little
These calls?
talkies. Yeah, so I've been moving to New York was very like it was hard.
Yeah.
And I never let myself accept that while I was moving. Like, of course, being in Houston, like I was the soil was just so familiar and fertile to me, and I was just like shooting up, and I was producing stuff, and I was just like very in my element, you know? It was like perfect ecosystem for me to just like feel creative and productive and just loved, you know, by like my
Yeah.
friends and everything like that. And moving to New York, I I I don't know, was sort of blindsided by what moving is like, you know, and
Yeah.
how you're literally just kind of like going into a new space with like, you know, nothing, you know, and
Not a single thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you can relate. Yeah, you're kind of uprooted as well.
Yeah.
And it's just Anne-Elisabeth in North Carolina.
Yes.
There we
But
go.
it's like, it's so weird because if you don't know anyone in this new space, I mean, they have no idea they don't know what you've done, what your values are, like
Yeah.
any accomplishments, like anything that you've ever identified as like, something that you feel like defines you or whatever. They don't know a single thing. And that is so strange.
Yeah, because there's a thing that I'm sure has a name, but like whenever you're in a place that's so familiar to you, where you've kind of always known you people have grown with you, and I don't know, you can have your different pockets, different communities, but there's always a space that you can go back to where people
Mhm.
kind of like affirm who you are to
Right,
yourself, you know? And
right.
it's like you don't really have to explain much about yourself for most interactions, your core interactions, you know? So like you're reminded who you are, and you don't have to like you don't have to have a script to like give to someone to kind
Yeah.
of like, you know, and having that is it's definitely something that's taken for granted because whenever you move out and you go somewhere else, you aren't affirmed on who you are as like a, you know, Anne Elizabeth or Imhotep, all the things that I sort of already kind of know because people have told me, but like whenever you move away, it's like no one's telling you, no one's affirming who you think you are, you know? So
Yeah.
like running into that, I was like, I didn't feel productive. I didn't feel like I was creative. And no one knew anything that I've previously done. And I'm like very like I'd never tell anyone like what it is that I'm doing, you know, like
Yeah.
so I just didn't it felt like I was networking whenever I was like just talking about stuff that I did, and I hated that. So I was just
Yeah.
kind of like closed off in like a little corner, and like I didn't feel productive, and that kind of made me a little depressed, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like it was a tough kind of you know, finding my little place. But because of that, I it made me focus a lot on like identity and
That's good.
like what it means to be oneself, you know, especially like online. Like my relationship with social media was like kind of turned on its head because I it wasn't a thing to where I was showing myself to people who like I knew anymore, you know? It was like sort of turned into like a weird visual resume, you know?
Mhm.
Like in like a
Yeah.
more loose, casual it was like my casual resume, you know, that I was giving to people so they can kind of like see who I am or catch up with me or weird stuff like that. And I don't know. I started to like really analyze that, and I didn't like how it sort of felt like I was trying to be an image or trying to resonate with an image. So I don't know. Long story short, I'm like taking you all the
No,
way through
yeah.
the story,
Yeah.
but it I feel like my art practice has become a thing of um I don't know, exploring what identity is like now, you know, in the interaction with like all of these different layers of like persona, you know,
Mhm.
because like in the whole I don't know what it's called, but the Jungian kind of like landscape or visual scape of like how the mind works, you have like the the self at the very core, and then you have like, and that's like who you truly are. And I'm butchering this, but
Yeah. No.
terminology's wrong, but kind of way I'm saying it is correct to my knowledge. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Go on. Yeah.
But yeah, you have your core self at the very center, and that's like your soul, you know, that's like almost instinctual idea of the self. It's like babies are or prepubescent people are like most in touch with that because they aren't affected by like self-awareness to kind of like cloud that idea
Mm.
of self, you know? So that's at the center. And then on the outside of that is the ego, and that's who you think you are, you know? And then outside of that is the persona, if I'm correct, and that's what other people think you are, you know, based off of what you think you are, you know. And then social media is like another type of persona, you know. It's a
Right.
whole different like landscape. It's the digital landscape. So that persona, you're kind of working behind two walls of persona or ways people perceive you, and like that can kind of some popped up, there we go, that can kind of like mess with people's like I don't know perception of themselves, and that's one of the elements of things that contributes to a lot of like um I don't know, depression or like I don't know, all of these things that make people feel a little bit uneasy with like who they are, you know, it compared to whatever. You know, because like social media is sort of like it's become, it was supposed to be a thing of communication, but it's become a thing of like representing the self. And I'm gonna use a metaphor of like the self being a movie. It's this like thing that's like really dynamic, and social media has kind of turned into this thing where it's like capturing moments of the
Mm.
movie, and whenever you put it out there, you could have the purest of intents of representing what that movie looks like. But, you know, if you string together like four images from like a 3 hour long movie, like you can create a narrative that, I don't know, wasn't really intentional. If you're just taking screenshots, you know,
Hmm.
and it'll always be a different narrative. So, like, I guess what I'm trying, yeah. So again, what I'm trying to do is like exploring how to be authentic in that kind of like landscape. And it's like a weird research project. Some of it is like very uh like experiment based, you know? Like
Hmm.
this was literally an experiment, and I kind of like it. So I'm going to keep on doing it forever or maybe for a year. But
That's great.
I'm also doing like sleep videos where
Yeah, yeah, which is so cool.
yeah, it's sort of a joke, but it's like the way people interact with like long format media, I think is like very interesting. Like, and the fact that you can upload an extremely long piece of content into like the internet, and it'll just exist there. And I don't know, there's a sort of like interesting intimacy that I'm able to have by like uploading a like 8 hour video of me like rolling around in bed, to the internet.
Yeah.
Like this place where like security and like, people really manage their identity and like what is seen, like just kind of giving my most vulnerable and like most uh yeah, my most vulnerable moments to the internet is kind of interesting. And also like sleep being this thing where you have dreams, which is like driving there's like metaphors for dreams being, or not metaphors, but there's another word. But that's kind of what where good ideas are made, all of this stuff. So it's balancing that vulnerability also with like uh making the glorifying the mundane, you know but
Hmm.
yeah, it's literally all research right now, and I've been writing a lot on these ideas because like I don't know, I'm like almost I'm low key obsessed with this like idea of like identity, and I don't know. That's where the psychology interest was always grounded in, but I just didn't know why I was interested in that stuff, and now I feel like I'm kind of figuring it out. Um,
Do you
yeah.
think that you would go back to school for psychology or any sort of,
Oh, yes. I
yes?
want to go back to school.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean recently I've just been really enamored by like essay writing and just kind of like the switch between like technical writing uh and creative writing, technical and creative being able to be like married.
Hmm.
So like treating art as like research, and to counter that, treating almost like our bachelor's of science design as like marrying that with something a little bit more arty and kind of like I like marrying those contrasting things. My dad got home, he's being annoying.
Hi, Dad.
But yeah, but yeah, marrying those two things and allowing for that like bridged gap, which brings me
Yeah.
further into this thing. Maybe this is something that I would want to study if there are any programs out there that like, offer studies in that. But like it's this concept called so there are these cultural paradigms, like modernism, postmodernism, and then like, and there's also all the shit that came before that stuff, but that's like what we've been chewing on recently. And like I'm very interested in what comes after that and how that looks
Mm.
like in how that looks like in a like in culture basically, like what how to solve the issues that people are facing today. And it's those paradigms like really kind of frame people's like value systems.
Hmm.
And um we're kind of working on in that postmodern like paradigm, but like we're like at the very end of it. And there's
That's,
like you can see a lot of like
mhm.
anxiety and like cultural anxiety like globally almost, that people we're working with an old framework, and we need to kind of like think of what can help us into the next thing. And it's basically called one of the names that is called is meta modernism, meta
Mm.
modernity. And looking into
Oh.
that, it's basically building a framework to interact with the anxiety that people are facing with like the end of postmodernism. And you can make like artwork that speaks that narrative. You can make design products that fit that narrative. You can make do research in general that fits that
Mhm.
narrative to help everyone understand like the edge of uh culture basically. But I don't know, that's all the spiel. That's what
Oh,
I want to study.
I mean, it's so interesting because I feel like the paradigm that we are maybe in right now, if it's different from postmodernism, is hard to classify as, oh, we this is when that ended and this is when that
Yes.
started
Yeah.
until a lot later. So yeah, I don't know. I'm like, what age are we in? How will we be defining this time in 50 years?
No, yeah, exactly. So the whole thing of like the people who are like really into like metamodernism, and I hate the name. It sounds stupid as hell because meta is such a buzzword, but
But I
the
mean, yeah,
yeah, the people that are kind of digging into those thoughts are basically just seeing it as the thing, the nugget that's gonna help us transition. Like, it's we're in that gray area, and maybe 100 years from now, like we'll have a name for what comes next, but like navigating into that needs to have like a new thought process that's developed and new conversations that are had to be able to help us kind of like shift our value system so things can feel meaningful again in a way that they kind of like stopped feeling with like postmodernism.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm like a nerd for that shit. I
Oh,
eat
that
that
is
shit
so
up.
cool.
If you're interested, like I can send you a good podcast, or
Yes,
I don't know.
I am always looking for a podcast. So yes, please.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a guy, John Vervaeke, who is
I'm taking
like
notes.
fat brain in these kind of circles, and yeah, there are tons of YouTube channels. Like, I don't know. I think it's very helpful for making uh I don't know, like important work, like work that everyone can resonate with and can like think on to, I don't know, have meaningful conversations, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that I'm really excited about and that I feel like I'm involved in. I don't really know if I am or not. Maybe I'll know in like 30 years. But
I mean, I would say you are. I feel like the work that you've done, as long as I've known you, has always been so forward thinking and so like
oh, thank
hard to pin and put in a box. And I think that it's because maybe we don't have the words to define a lot of that. And we
you.
will in the future and be able to say, oh, Imhotep was like way before his time. But right now we're like, struggling to, yeah, I think that your mind is so powerful. You know that? I just need you to like I want you to remember that. Write that in your bathroom mirror.
Oh,
Imhotep's
thank you
mind is
so
so
much. I'm
powerful.
like, hey, your brain is cool. That's gonna be my affirmation.
Yeah, yeah. Um, are there any schools specifically in New York City that are interesting to you? I'm thinking because the new school, I think, does a lot of those sort of intersectional or intersection like design plus something
Cross
else sort of
pollination type stuff.
programs. I don't know if specifically something that I don't know if that exists, like sort of what you're thinking, but I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like maybe you could make your own master's program, or would,
Oh
are you thinking
man.
master's or are you thinking PhD?
I honestly don't know the difference.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What is the difference between like PhD gives you your doctor title? Is that the only
Yeah,
difference?
yeah.
Why doesn't
So,
everyone just do that instead of getting a master's then?
I mean, it's a little, I can like
Yeah, yeah,
briefly
yeah, you could.
summarize. So, and this is based on my understanding, but I'm sure that there's still a lot that I won't be able to speak to. But a master's is typically like a 1 to 2 year program that can either be like an academic master's where you have a thesis at the end of it,
Mm,
or it can be like a professional master's where you're doing more like project based stuff. Um, both are valid, both are great. Getting a master's is like sometimes like a moneymaker for a lot of universities because typically masters you have, well, not always, but in certain situations, in certain industries, I guess, masters you have to pay for. On the other side of that,
hey,
PhD
no,
programs are typically
Ed,
like
you
four to
can't
five
interrupt.
years.
Sorry.
You're good. You're good if you need to
No, 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 no,
chat.
no,
Yeah.
no. Go ahead, go ahead.
No, you finish up. You're good.
Oh, okay, okay. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
All right, we're back.
All right.
Yeah, I
Hello.
had to apologize. I was like, don't.
You're fine.
But
All good. All good.
so yeah,
Uh,
you were going about the master's versus PhD.
yeah, a master's is basically like going to open a lot of doors professionally. Um, PhD is more like if you have like a burning research area that you want to spend 4 to 5 years like really honing in on, and you're also typically, if it's like science, you are paid to do a PhD. So like you receive a stipend, and you typically don't have to pay tuition. But it's more like you are in many ways like an employee of the university, like doing research for the
Uh,
university.
my best
Uh,
friend Tamor is he's getting his PhD. I never really under. He's like, yeah, PhD, and I'm like, another thing. Yeah, Doctor Tamor.
yeah, I mean, oh, that's right. Okay, I feel like I know the friend that you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know
I've seen
Tamor.
on your Instagram before.
That's my buddy. That's my brother.
I know, Keller's so cute. Yeah, so a PhD is just the world of academia can be very toxic in PhDs, and you just sort of have to be like, depending on the field that you're in, it can just be like really tolling on mental health. And
Mm.
PhD students are sometimes not respected and like treated more like students rather than like employees. And like it's a weird, you're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
paid very well, and
Oh
there's
yeah.
bad work-life balance. You're basically expected to work all the time, but like you have to have enough like strength to be able to say like, no, this is like a job and I'm like going to treat it as such and not let you like overrule my life. Anyways, it's like a very, there are many onions or many like many
Layers,
layers to
layers
the
to it.
onion. um but yeah,
Okay,
so
wait. So it's possible to get a PhD in something other than science?
yeah, there's PhDs in like literally everything.
Holy shit. All right, shit.
So PhD, it's because you have like a specific area. I would say a PhD would probably be like the best use of your time if you have like, if you want to dedicate the next 4 to 5 years doing that. Um,
Mm.
Specifically because you're doing a lot of research, it's like you'll end up like publishing papers and like sometimes like working in a lab and like doing that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it's just like really intense,
I
but
can
also
imagine
really,
it
really
would be the
rewarding.
job.
Do what?
It would be the job.
It would be the job, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, you could still like, you could still work. You would just have to really like be
I'd have to be a
structured.
robot.
Yeah,
Be like,
yeah, I don't know.
but yeah, no, that is definitely something that I would love to do. Cause like I don't know, there are moments where I think about this stuff and I'm like, wow, this shit is like really, you know, it's helping forward thinking. And that's so like on the edge of like understanding shit that I'm like, it's blowing my mind that I stumbled across some like niche ass like what's happening in psychology today, and that's gonna help us, or socio whatever, that helps
Yeah.
us move past cultural situations that have been like really deeply embedded for whatever reasons, you know. It's yeah, it gets me excited. So
But that's the thing, like it gets you excited, and that's the first step, is finding something that really just, drives the work that you want to do. I mean, I would say if you could find some mentors that are maybe have done a PhD or are doing research in this space, um, I mean, like if there's any papers that you've read that you have found like to be really
Or reach
interesting,
out
maybe
to
you
the.
find those people and like reach out
Oh
and just be like,
wow.
hey, like do like an informational interview and just like talk to them about like their research, their work, like their experience in academia, and just kind of feel out. Because sometimes even with that, if you could identify someone that then you would want to work in a lab with or like work for, do research for, then you basically already have an in. PhDs are a
Oh
lot
shit.
about the connections that
Wow.
you make with people. So like if there's someone that, for example, if you like found this like really cool like researcher at NYU and you like forged a relationship, then you could very well, that person could say, hey, Imhotep, do you want to like come do your PhD with me? And then that's how you basically get in. Like it's weird because you don't really apply without already knowing people where
Oh,
you
that's beautiful for me. I look
yeah.
terrible on paper.
It's very like relationship oriented, from what I understand. So I'm not saying you look bad on paper. I think
No,
you
no,
like
no,
look
no, no, no.
great on
I
paper.
do. Whether you say it or not, you know. But like, I just look like a very average student. But I don't know. I've never really been academic at all. But I don't know. It's a very interesting thought that I've stumbled across. Like, provoking the thought of like going back to school. Because whenever I started at U of H, I was like, I need to get out of school. Like.
You started school ready to leave.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I was like, God, like 4 years, four more. And I was like, I promised myself that I would never go back to school. Not, and this is the disclaimer thing, not because of U of H, but just because of like, I don't know, being a student. I didn't like that I was like producing valuable work for free. And like no one's,
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, like this shit is amazing. And and it's just gonna, sit in my USB drive. And then I go to work at Walmart after school, and but now it's a situation where like, I don't know, maybe in the future, yeah, like funds wouldn't really be too much of an issue for like school, or like just not even thinking about that, and being comfortable in knowing that if I do have to take out loans, like I'm making like really meaningful work to
Right.
me, specifically. But yeah, you spoke to like what 18-year-old me, I would have been like, dude, fuck school, don't do it, get out and like just learn on your own, but
Right.
I do like the access that being a student has. Like Jesus Christ, like
Being a student is incredible. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. It's like the world opens up to you.
Oh yeah. We graduated, like my key shot and like my SolidWorks like went away.
Revoked.
Yeah, yeah, all the shit was like,
License ended.
and I was like, fuck, like I'm a normal person again.
Dude, it's crazy here. Creative Cloud is like part of your tuition, so I don't have
Oh,
to pay $30 a month anymore, and it's
oh hell
beautiful.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Creative Cloud, they're like, thank you. It's like,
I'll take that. Thank
yeah,
you
yeah.
very much.
It's like you only use Photoshop and whatever. It's like, give me for everything, even though it's like, yeah, I'm like,
I'm like, oh God, okay, take it.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's I don't know. I just get really excited every day, and I get excited for like everyone involved in, I don't know, doing something that they like to do. Because like
Yeah,
there's nothing more frightening than the idea of like not knowing what you want to do. It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
pure anxiety, and it's almost grounded in nothing, because like, well, it's grounded in something, but uh a simple conversation with yourself can remove that. But not knowing what you're going to do is like, it's like a universal feeling, and some people kind of give up on that. But like, I don't know, there's room for probing around and taking time. Everyone's in so much of a rush. It's like, relax, like,
and like there's so much to be said for evolving and being okay with that.
yeah,
And one thing being part of your journey, but not being like the very end and the last thing that you do and the thing that you have to stay with forever.
yeah,
We're meant to
that's
grow and learn and like change, and that's what it's
yeah,
all about. You're not supposed to stay stagnant. So being okay with that. And I think when you're young, when you're like college age, you think, oh, okay, the thing I'm studying, the thing I'm doing, like has to be what I do forever.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's just like it's just an opening. It's just the start of like learning how to learn. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's another thing about like identity is that, people feel like they have to adhere to an idea of like what learning looks like,
mhm,
but it's like, nah, just do what you like, and that that's where intuition is so important, and intuition is like lost for some reason. I could probably think of a reason, but I'd have to think about it. But
yeah.
like, d- people don't really have too much intuition, or they have like a very loose sense of oh man, a loose. It's like 10
Look at
minutes left
us.
again.
Round two,
Yeah, yeah, we're
wrapping
like
up.
burning this shit. But we'll go on for 15 minutes into the next one, and then we'll wrap it up, or else we'll go on forever.
We will go on forever. Honestly, I may have to go at the end of this one.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so that works. That gives us 9 minutes and 35 seconds. So
Yeah, 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 and good note to end on, intuition. But yeah, like it's something that's just kind of vanished, and people are driven more on like popular narrative, and this idea scales like on different kind of like social scales. Like people are driven a lot on, actually it's kind of a chicken and egg situation, but I'm not going to go into that. Intuition is important, and doing what feels right,
yeah.
uh is the best way to do what you want. I mean, you could end up doing something that feels right and ends up being terrible for you, but that offers reflection, and then you can move. You don't have to do it all in like, uh before you're 22.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know, I see a lot of the students at U of H, like my friend is going there now, and they're like all freaking out, and I'm like, relax, like you came this far, like you're sort of in the right place, because like specifically ID, that shit's niche as fuck, like
hmm
for the
But like,
most part.
but yet it's not. Yet ideas like touches every single thing that we do. So like if you think of it as a lens, a framework for approaching anything, then yeah, like design is everywhere. So like when people don't know what industrial design is or what product design is, and then you like have that conversation and you explain it to them, suddenly like they too see the world differently and realize that it's everywhere. So
Yeah, yeah. And
yeah,
it's the sort of thing that, I don't know, industrial design has like a taste to its name, but um it's really just teaching you the core elements of like production. I
yeah,
mean, of course, in the major, you're gonna learn specific skills like for that, but like, yeah, man, it's yeah, production and making things real. Uh, it's really good at that. But yes, good note.
yeah.
We'll end on that one.
Okay.
It's amazing speaking to you.
Oh, it's
Definitely
so
gonna
good
have
talking
to
to you. I would
check
love to
back in
just
on you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, just like let's continue the conversation, talk sometime. Like it doesn't have to be recorded. We can just
No,
talk.
no, yeah, yeah. You just got lucky this time.
I know. Thanks for, the random generator that selected me. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
the robots.
Yes. Thank you to the robots.
But yeah, we'll definitely be
Um,
in touch.
yes.
Uh,
And it's been so cool keeping up and seeing all the cool things that you're doing. I'm so glad that we met back at UH, and I hope that, you know, I can continue to watch your journey because you're doing some freaking amazing things.
Thank you so much. It's nice to see you doing your thing too. Like, but yeah, we're gonna see what that looks like soon as time goes on. Uh,
Yeah, I don't know. I love the idea of this being a little time capsule that I look back
oh
on
yeah.
and think, wow, like this is where I thought I was going to be doing whatever I thought I was going to be doing, and like, reflecting on that and seeing wherever I end up the next time I see this in however many years. So it's kind of a you know,
No,
fun
yeah.
little
This
little nugget.
tickles my like archival like
Yeah.
archivalist itch that I like have, So I'm
Oh,
glad it can be a resource,
yeah.
for you in the future.
Hey, gosh, now you got me reflecting about identity, and I have so many. I feel like I need to like end this and then do a little journaling before I go to sleep
Oh,
tonight and
hell
just
yeah.
reflect on what we've talked about.
No, yeah, journal well and then sleep well after and then dream about identity and all of that stuff after,
Yes,
Like
yes,
really chew on it.
I will. I will.
All right.
Oh, well,
You have a
take care,
beautiful
my
night.
tab. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes. See you
Okay.
around.